All right, thank you for staying with us. And this very conversation is a continuation of the one we started yesterday about the push from Nigeria, each, when I mean each Nigeria and the African continent should have a seat the United Nations Security Council table, and not just any house seat as the permanent, category that Nigeria and the African continent should have. Of course, you have the five nations that make up the UNSC permanent category: US, UK, China, Russia, and France. All right. But at the ongoing United Nations General Assembly, President Tinubu, represented by Vice President Kashim Shettima, made that case again. We just allow you to have a hang of what he said, and then we'll bring in our guest to give us, an overview and what we need to do to have that.
Some permanent members of the United Nations Security Council have offered encouraging, if tentative, indications of support on the issue of reform of the Council. We welcome the change in tone and urge an acceleration in momentum to the process. The Security Council should be expanded in the permanent and non-permanent member categories to reflect the diversity and plurality of the world. We fully support the efforts of the Secretary General Guterres in this regard. Africa must be accorded the respect that it deserves in the Security Council. Our continent deserves a place in the permanent members category of the Security Council with the same rights and responsibilities as other permanent members. Mr. President, your assumption of the stewardship of the General Assembly presupposes that.
All right, we are being joined virtually by scholar and, of course, a security analyst, Reverend Father Dr. Anthony Adebayo. Thank you, Doctor, for joining us.
Thank you. Good morning.
Of course, good morning. Good to see you again.
Yeah, even though I can't see you, I'm only hearing your voice.
Okay. All right. All right. Possibly you heard Vice President Kashim Shettima making a case on behalf of his principal, on behalf of Nigeria, and on behalf of the continent, say Nigeria, especially the African continent, deserve a seat at the permanent category section, not just, the non-permanent seat at the UNSC. What do you make of that?
Well, once again, good morning.
Welcome, sir.
It's a good thing that he has tried to make a case for Nigeria to be on the permanent seats in the United Nations. I think it's a good thing. It's not new. The agitation has been on for quite some time, not only for Nigeria but for Africa. And he made allusion also to that, to say that Africa deserves a place. Africa deserves recognition on the permanent council, as permanent member of the United Nations in Security Council. For me, I think it's a very good thing. It's a laudable thing, not only for Nigeria but for Africa, to reflect the diversity of the world as we evolve on and on.
Yes. All right. But many persons are saying, yeah, we deserve that. Africa deserves that. And if Africa deserves that, who else? You spearhead that. This is Nigeria. And that's the case that he made. And when you check the permanent, category, you have nations like US, UK, France, China, and Russia. And one will say, do we have what it takes, to rub shoulders? But then the first president made a case for expansion. And you are not talking about for substitution, expansion. But how does this work? If one would get that particular seat, what are the requirements? Do we have it as a nation so that we are not just moving in delusion?
All right. Even though I say I cannot see you, but it's okay. We continue.
Yeah.
To say that we have what it takes, yes, to some extent, yeah. But even if it's going to be expanded, one thing we should know is that the world powers are not ready to let go. If you expand the Security Council, you will create more problems. That's what I think. You create more problems. So I don't think for now they are going to expand the Security Council. I don't think so. The world powers may not let that be. You know, don't forget that the Security Council is made up of 15 members. So out of the 15, you have 5 permanent members. So you still have 10 others who come in on rotational basis. So if you have 15, and then you want to expand, you expand to, so you are going to expand to what? You are going to expand to how many? Are you following me, sir?
Yes.
You are going to expand to how many because you have 15 already. I think the agitation has been to have permanent members. So if you have permanent members, you have 5 already. So you are going to have how many? And the more permanent members that you have, the more the confusion is going to be. And what do I mean? The permanent members are the only ones who have the veto powers. And already about the veto powers, there's a lot of confusion going on. A lot of confusion. In the sense that, you know, the UN General Assembly may meet, the UN Security Council may meet, and take a resolution that is where we are going. But once a permanent member vetoes and says, I'm not in support, you cannot enforce that resolution. You get my point? So now, if you have 15 members and the other nations in the General Assembly take a decision for United Nations, and then one member out of 5, the permanent members, now says, I am not in support, and vetoes, you cannot enforce that decision. You can't. That's why it's as good as dead. So now what does that mean? If you have 5 out of which one will say no. So if you now have like 10 or 15 permanent members, how do you coordinate? Where will be the spirit of cohesion? With 5 permanent members with the power of veto, there are still issues, there are still problems. So when you have 15 permanent members, what's going to happen? And if you don't mind, let me take you to the current happenings in the world now.
Yes.
We have the problem of the Gaza, the war in Gaza, the Israeli and Palestinian problem. So many times you have had resolutions from United Nations taken that to stop the war in Gaza, to give the Palestinian state their own state and all that. They will sit, they will discuss, they will agree. Sometimes USA may say, I'm not in agreement. Then USA will use its veto. And then that's all. That's where the decision ends. The resolution ends there. Nothing can be done. Because once 1 out of the 5 members said no, that's the end. So you can now see that if you now have like 10 members, you have 20 permanent members, from which all of them must at every time come to agreement on one issue. So the more you expand the permanent council, permanent membership, the more you are going to have a lot of confusion. Cohesion will be difficult. Agreement will be difficult because you are going to have different power blocks. And when you have those different power blocks, then you are going to have issues. So for me, even though Nigeria is qualified, yes, other nations are also qualified. And to address the second part of your question, is that even if we are qualified, can we actually compete right now? Can we compete? Can we have enough support? Let's say today they say, okay, let's give Africa a slot. Okay, are you with me, sir?
Yes, sir.
So if you say, hello.
Yes, we are with you.
If you say let's give Africa, if you say let's give Africa a slot in the permanent membership, can Nigeria stand it? Can Nigeria win it? Can Nigeria stand and because if they say, okay, UN, we are giving Africa 1 slot, okay, can Nigeria take it? I doubt it. I don't think Nigeria can favorably compete to get that seat. As we are right now, I don't think so. And I have my reasons.
Are you saying
Okay.
that we are weak as a nation at this point, and also that we are not ready? Is that what you're saying?
As far as international diplomacy is concerned, we are weak. I'm telling you. And I'll give the reasons. Like I said, they say, let's give Africa one slot. We can say Nigeria is giant of Africa, yes, but that giant is not in international diplomacy. Let's look at the reasons one by one.
Okay.
The first thing is that, you know, the power blocks, the way they operate, where Russia is going, America is not going there. Anyone that China support, America will not support. Anyone that Russia support, America will not support. That's number one. And let's take it from BRICS. The countries of BRICS, Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa. South Africa is a what's it called now? Is an African nation, so to say. Now, BRICS, with all the Russia allies, all the Chinese allies, all of them, those from South America, Brazil and co, through the influence of BRICS, if South Africa is going to compete with us, they are going to support South Africa. Do you understand my point now?
Yes.
So they are going to support, if we are standing in South Africa, where Russia is going, all the nations that are behind Russia, that are Russia allies, China is in BRICS. All the nations that are in alliance with China, all the nations that are in alliance with Brazil in South America, if South Africa is competing with us for the African slot, they will go for South Africa as against Nigeria. Which other area does Nigeria belong? We belong to ECOWAS, which we all know. But we know that in ECOWAS now we have lost 4 countries. Niger is no longer in ECOWAS. Burkina Faso is not there. Guinea and Mali. Now, if you look at all those countries, they have also their own friendship, even within ECOWAS, they have their own friendship countries. Russia is the one behind all these 4 countries who have left ECOWAS. So wherever Russia is going, these countries will go. All right? So if Russia says we are backing South Africa, it simply means that all these countries that I've just mentioned from Africa, from West Africa, are going to go behind South Africa. So, and that's the way it's going to be going. And it's a game of voting, it's a game of numbers. So it's not a matter of saying we are the giant of Africa, we have the more population in Africa, this and that. It doesn't work that way. Look at what has been happening to us okay, let me bring another issue again. Why we are weak. If we think we can be doing things the way we like and not do things right, we will continue to be big on paper and weak in reality. We are 195 countries in the world. Presently, Nigeria is not having ambassadors in about 100 of them. Since Tinubu came in, and he sacked all the other, and he sacked those ambassadors. Till now, we are yet to have ambassadors in all the nations of the world. And the ambassadors are the lobbyists. They are the ones who will lobby your case with the countries where they are. They are the ones. So we just believe that we can do things the way we like and expect it doesn't work.
So,
it doesn't work. So if
Father, for you, Nigeria... Go ahead, please. Go ahead.
Yeah, yes. So if you don't have ambassadors in your diplomatic missions in about 100 countries of the world, so who talks for you over there? Who relates with those nations? So these are some of the issues why Nigeria may not be able to compete favorably, even right now, if we are going to fight. And I wanted to say something before. Look at what happens to us when we go to fight, when we go to contest, even in football, with CAF presidency. You know, that is the head of the presidency of African Football Federation. We always lose. Even though we are giants of Africa, yes, but we always lose. Why do we always lose? Because our diplomatic acumen is very low. We say we are big, yes, but we don't know how to organize ourselves when it comes to international diplomacy. And that's why even in football, even in athletics, we continue to lose. Anglophone countries, some of them will be with us, some of them will align with us. But I tell you, wherever France is going, is where the Francophone countries are going. So that is it. So that's why we may not be able to compete favorably, even if Africa is giving a slot for us to win that slot for Africa. No, I don't see us winning it, honestly.
All right, Reverend Father, what about the argument given that Nigeria has contributed in no small measures to peacekeeping missions and also sending of troops to war-torn countries, and of course they deserve to be on that seat because of this? Are you still with us?
Okay, I get your question. I'm with you.
Yeah, is that argument weighty enough? That aside our population, Nigeria has been playing the big brother role to other African countries, sending troops, participating in peacekeeping missions in other countries.
Yeah, if we play our card well, and with right leadership, and with right diplomatic focus, yes, that argument actually holds water, because when we talk about ECOMOG, when we talk about missions in Sudan and all that, and even the war we did in South Africa against the apartheid regime and all that,
exactly,
you will say based on that, Nigeria is eminently qualified, honestly, based on that. But it doesn't end there. It doesn't end there at all. Yes, that's the argument on one side. Yes, very, very good. But you must play your diplomatic card very, very well. I just brought up to you issue about football.
Yes.
You see, African Federation of Football. I mean, Nigeria is a powerhouse when it comes to football. It's a powerhouse, but still, we still don't win the presidency of CAF, because we're not playing our cards well.
So we need to put our house in order.
Let us put our house in order. Let us know how to play our see. International diplomacy is not bread and butter. When you talk about selfishness, when you talk about being shrewd, when you talk about being organized, that is what makes international diplomacy, because every country wants to defend want to protect itself. One, every country must go with its own allies. So now, if Nigeria is behaving as if we can do it alone, Nigeria is behaving as if we can work it alone, if Nigeria is behaving as if even when we don't have ambassadors in nations of the world, we can work it alone, it's not going to work.
All right.
Our leadership must sit down and do things the right way.
All right. Doctor, quickly, because of time, you just spoke to the issues, really, because, Evelyn talked about many peacekeeping missions that Nigeria have gone to, and we have came back gallantly. Liberia, Sierra Leone, Darfur in Sudan, many of them. But then you raised the point of diplomacy, because you're actually correct, like 109 nations, of the world, we don't have
195.
I mean our ambassadors right now, we don't have in 109 nations, especially since the advent of this administration, and it's quite important as well.
Yes.
Yeah, let me ask.
Yes.
One will say, is it fair, really? Because President Tinubu through Kashim Shettima spoke about expansion and inclusivity, to say Europe has 3 members, Russia, UK, and France. Asia has 1 in China, North America has 1, then Africa has none.
Yes. Well, the argument that we should have inclusivity, equity, and all that, the argument is justified, honestly, because Africa has none, And but the argument could still be that, but Africa has non-permanent membership there that will go on rotational basis. The argument that we should have is okay, but my major concern has gone beyond the argument that Africa should have one. I agree that Africa should have one, but if Africa is going to have one, can Nigeria enter there? Can Nigeria make it? Right now, as we speak, Nigeria cannot make it. I'm telling you, because who are the lobbyists? Who are those going to lobby those countries? I'm happy you agree that we don't have ambassadors in many nations.
Yeah, that is.
Who are those who are going to lobby those nations?
Public knowledge.
Who will lobby those nations? Nobody. Nobody will lobby those nations for us. And if care is not taken, if they are going to even expand, India can get it before us. Then Asia will be having two. Asia will have two. So you need to play your card well.
All right. If
you don't play your card well, you will keep shouting and shouting and nothing will happen.
All right.
Those who are supposed to be your foot soldiers in those countries are the ambassadors for the diplomatic missions. They are not there.
All right.
They are not there. We are not aligning with nations of the world also. I mentioned BRICS. I mentioned ECOWAS. These are places where you can garner support for yourself and start going. You know what we do in Nigeria is that Olympics is 4 years away. You know, sir?
Yes.
Olympics for 4 years.
Yes, sir.
When it's 3 weeks to the Olympics, 1 month, we begin to gather athletes. And that's what we will do also in this United Nations issue. When it's about time, we now start moving. We don't ever prepare for anything. It's always. Meanwhile, South Africa, India, they are prepared. They are making the real alliances. They are making the real. They are joining forces. We are not doing all those things. If they announce that okay, we are expanding today, that's when Nigeria will start talking. That's when Nigeria will start.
And it doesn't work that way.
Meanwhile, we have been talking, going there to talk, but we don't have anything on ground.
All right, Doctor. Very instructive to say that we should put our house in order, firstly internally and even diplomatically, and be ready, because it doesn't just answer to talk. I want to sincerely thank you, a scholar and a security analyst, Reverend Father Dr. Anthony Adebayo. Thank you for your time and take.
Thank you so much. Thank you. God bless you. Thank you.
Amen. Thank you. That is, quite instructive to say it's not just by advocacy. We must walk the talk as well, because that thing that we are eyeing, many nations of the world are eyeing, and they are playing their cards underneath as well. We, expand the conversation, and it will continue after this break. Stay with us.